Atlanta under Jerry Jones. You know, the marriage has kind of lasted a little bit longer than most thought. Parcells seems very committed to getting the Cowboys back to the playoffs this year, while the owner is already talking Super Bowl. As we've learned over the years, that's just Jerry Jones. Steve Dennis has the story from Oxnard.
I want to hold this up the way we hold up those Super Bowl trophies when we won one right here.
The owner of the Dallas Cowboys is happily talking about Super Bowls again this training camp, maybe putting a little pressure on his highly respected and highly paid head coach.
Probably as big a reason as anything that I'm excited is because Bill is here. This is a time when we've got a chance to have some good things happen. It's certainly not a given, but we've got a chance.
And they got some improving to do.
When you have these kind of results, you can't be happy with yourself, and I'm not happy with myself.
Coach Bill Parcells is not used to losing football teams. He's only had 5 in 17 seasons, never 2 in a row.
I certainly feel challenged myself, and I certainly feel that I do have something to prove. I just feel that way. It's just, I think your nature as a coach to feel that way.
I think no one handles losing well when you're used to winning, and I think he's been used to winning his entire career.
The $30 million Jerry Jones spent on free agents adds to the pressure, and so does what many consider to be a superlative draft class.
I appreciate the support that I've gotten in the offseason here. As Jerry said, it is a thing that should hopefully lead to some improvement this year.
Field goal defense.
It's what you do about that emotion that counts. I mean, you know, some people just fold it up and quit and give in to it, and others will try to respond.
For KI Sports, this is Steve Dennis.
Thank you, Steve. Coming up next on Sports.
And welcome back to Instant Replay. Take you back to Oxnard in just a few minutes. But first, as we told you earlier,
You say you won? That's your story and you're sticking with it. Okay. All right, it's time now for the results of our Instant Replay poll. Let's go to them right now. Who will make the biggest impact on the Dallas Cowboys this coming season? Julius, Keyshawn, Jason, Drew, or Bill? And it is a landslide for Julius Jones at 67%. Well, that's going to do it for this extended edition of Instant Replay live from the Dallas Cowboys training camp here in California tonight from Ventura's Marina. We'd like to thank Keyshawn for being with us. Good luck to Fabricio Alberto with the Spurs. Of course, to Coach Fran and the
30s, you got them all penciled in already. It is a young man's game, there's no doubt. But 30 doesn't necessarily mean you're old. There's pretty good 30-year-old football players around.
I'm old. I've been playing 10 years in this league, and I'm old.
I've seen some guys that will kind of break that perception down a little bit, and hopefully I'll continue to be one of those guys. I really enjoy it, to be honest with you. You know, being out here and playing with guys that watched me play football when they were 11 years old. I mean, it's you know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I was doing when I was 11.
The challenge was on. Campbell was already highly motivated to get back after missing 13 games last year because of a foot injury, and then his appendix nearly ruptured on the day before Cowboys training camp was to start. He had immediate surgery, and though he was told by a non-sports doctor to avoid lifting anything heavy for 4 weeks, Campbell suited up for the scrimmage Saturday and returned to practice today, exactly 10 days later.
What constitutes performance is not what Campbell did, okay? Campbell did not beat the record, okay? He tied the record, all right? Because he was not actually in pads on the field performing until this morning.
Sounds like you're splitting hairs to me, Coach. Sidelines at Cowboys camp have looked something like a Lakers game. Every time you turn around, another TV or movie star. Dennis Miller there with his sons today, the former star of SNL, currently does a weekly show on HBO. Perhaps he was at camp preparing for Monday Night Football. Oh, wait, he's not doing Monday Night Football anymore. Nice to see that he's let it go, though.
You're talking about a guy who's a comedian. All of a sudden, you've got the best sports broadcasting job in the world. I mean, I never look back on it with rancor. The way I look at it is John Madden left Fox, and they're going to hire Madden. He's Madden. You know? But airdrop Madden into the Improv on any given night. See if he can do 10. I don't think so.
Well, from Dennis Miller.
Miller on hand at Cowboys training camp today, watching the boys go at it yet again in Oxnard. Now, while camp is important for the young players, some of the veterans need the work as well. A couple of guys been working very hard, kind of getting to know each other, are Drew Bledsoe and Keyshawn Johnson. Now, Keyshawn is a much different type of receiver than Bledsoe is used to, and getting that chemistry down takes some time.
He's had smaller guys who are quick like Terry, who he can see things a lot easier. With me, he really can't read my body language, so things were difficult in the beginning of things, but now it's nice and calm. We're coming along fine.
He also does a very good job at the top of his routes. His body language is deceptive for the defensive back, but because of that, it's also deceptive to the quarterback. So you really have to learn to trust him, and I'm developing that with him fairly quickly.
And with me, typically, I'm not going to have a 5-yard separation space. I don't need that in order to make a play, and he needs to learn that, and the coaches are constantly telling him that, and he's getting more comfortable with knowing, okay, I can throw the ball in an area where it looks like he's covered, and the opportunity there will still be there for him.
Keyshawn's a confident man.
In Oxnard, the Cowboys broke out throwback helmets for practice this morning. The Cowboys will wear the throwbacks twice this year, on Monday night, Ring of Honor night, and on Thanksgiving Day. Dan Campbell and Chris Canty both returned to practice for the first time today, and comedian Dennis Miller watched practice from the sidelines. Speaking of pro football,
I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I want. I want him to be smart, tough, aggressive, have some mental resiliency, those kinds of things that separate the winners from the losers.
A star at Cowboys camp, but first. And there is a sight for sore eyes. Dan Campbell in pads for the first time at Cowboys camp. When Dan arrived in Oxnard, he had to have emergency appendectomy surgery. 10 days later, he's on the field. Impressive, but not a record.
What constitutes performance is not what Campbell did, okay? Campbell did not beat the record, okay? He tied the record, all right? Because he was not actually in pads on the field performing until this morning.
That's because we had a day off. Otherwise, I would have been out on day 9. So, see, I'm saying whatever. You know, I'm saying I beat the record, but it's okay. I'm back, so that's all that matters.
How do guys keep up with stats like that? The Cowboys had another visitor from Hollywood, comedian Dennis Miller and his sons looking in on practice. Miller, a one-time member of the Monday Night Football broadcast team, says he is not bitter about being replaced.
You're talking about a guy who's a comedian. All of a sudden, you've got the best sports broadcasting job in the world. I mean, I never look back on it with rancor. The way I look at it is John Madden left Fox, and they're going to hire Madden. He's Madden. You know? But airdrop Madden into the Improv on any given night. See if he can do 10. I don't think so.
Yeah, he might be able to do 5 minutes of stand-up, though. Preseason action.
Boys right now in camp. Jim Burton, Carl Banks, two of the Tuna's stars from his giant Super Bowl teams of the late 80s. Both guys at camp this week coaching. Burton, Banks giving instruction to the Cowboys' young defensive draft picks. And they know better than anybody why players love playing for the Tuna.
He gives you everything he has, and you know he's like a guy that you went into battle with, not for. So that's where the loyalty comes in. He wasn't aloof. He wasn't detached from the situation. He was a part of it. He was in the thick of it.
Bad news, though, today. Jacob Rogers, number 75 right there, who is on his way to starting at the right tackle spot, suffered a shoulder injury. No word right now on just how serious that might be. As we told you at 5 o'clock,
But can he bring the D back to Dallas as KSAT 12 Sports goes camping with the Cowboys? Bill Parcells knows Jason Ferguson, and Ferguson knows Parcells, and that's one reason why the Cowboys signed the nose tackle during the offseason. Ferguson was drafted by Parcells back in 1997, spending his first 8 seasons with the Jets. Another reason why the Tuna likes the 310-pound defender is because he knows the 3-4 defense and will help make the transition for the others easier.
I'm my worst critic, so whatever everybody put pressure on me, I'm putting more pressure on myself. So there ain't a lot of pressure you're putting on me. It's something I want to do, and this is what they brought me here to do, and I'm glad they brought me here.
Besides being big, Ferguson is also a very loud man and has quickly won over his teammates with his funny, outgoing personality.
Ever the paranoid Parcells? Bill, send somebody over to see what the guy was up to. Turns out he was harmless, just a high school football coach trying to get some tips on improving his team. Still, you can never be too careful.
I just thought Coach Parcells is more focused on running practice and worried about who's what the Chiefs are doing.
Turns out, I guess he was a high school coach.
It's an innocent person here, just trying to get better as a coach.
We're going to remand him to the custody of the warden of Aurora State Penitentiary in New Jersey.
You're not running covert operations for the Chiefs?
I don't even know what covert means.
And that is rookie lineman Rob Pettit with a new look. Rob's got the Mohawk style going thanks to some of his veteran teammates.
I got it from some of the veteran linemen. So, you know, it doesn't look that bad, I don't think.
I'm going to look like an idiot for a while, but that's all right.
Anybody going to be concerned about this look back home?
I'm sure my mom will. She's going to have a fit when she sees it on the news, but that's all right.
Madden shared some stories with Bill Parcells, while former Cowboys great Troy Aikman watched from the sidelines. Both are analysts now, and Aikman actually has a little faith in the boys.
This team here has got some talent, and if they can play good as a team, I think that they can compete. They'll be competing obviously with the Eagles within the division, and then but they could get in as a wild card and do something. I don't think that's unrealistic at all.
It's a possibility.
Former Cowboy quarterback Troy Aikman in Oxnard today, checking on his old team, doing a little work for his job with Fox. Now, since Aikman retired, he's looking at the 8th guy to try to fill his shoes. What a legacy he must have left. Aikman seems to be impressed with Drew Bledsoe, but he says if Bledsoe doesn't get help, he won't have much luck either this year.
I know that there's a lot of people who talk about the emphasis of a quarterback that can run the ball, but ultimately those guys up front have to do what they do, and that's block people. And so if the offensive line solidifies and protects him, I think that he should have a pretty good year.
Now, joining Aikman at camp today, John Madden. After watching the Cowboys work out, the talk turned to T.O. Terrell Owens. Both head coaches, Parcells and Madden, had some pretty good insight into the situation.
I can't say I paid much attention to it. You couldn't help but be exposed to some of it. I'm trying to keep my own house from burning down right now.
There's no say, when you had a great player in high school, the guy, you'd always save the bus for him, you know, and you always had these, you know, okay, the bus is leaving at 3 o'clock. And then if your great running back wasn't there at 3, hey, driver, check those tires out there. I think they're a little low.
All right, go with that, but you have to wonder if After 2 weeks of practicing in Oxnard, the Cowboys head to Arizona to take on the Cardinals tomorrow night in their preseason opener. Parcells will get his first look at how much better this team is than last year's 6-10 squad, and for his sake, this team needs to be better.
We got to do something here. That's where we are. It's just like every team that didn't have a good year. We got to do something here. So I'm going to try to, I mean, I know I'm expected to do that, and that's no revelation. But since the season was over, I've made every effort I can to improve this team. And I'm coaching them as hard as I can to do that, and I'm going to continue to do that. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not in the insurance business.
Another 6-10 season, he might be in the insurance business. Kickoff tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. After getting kicked out of Eagles training
out there. Jason Ferguson and Marcus Spears included will not make the trip to Arizona for the preseason opener due to injuries. The good news, though, Bill Parcells says Ferguson will return to the field on Monday. Tony Romo will back up Drew Bledsoe, but Drew Henson will do the same the following game, so it doesn't necessarily mean Romo's ahead in the race. Julius Jones will get 7 to 8 carries tomorrow night, and that's about it. Now, when the Cowboys opened the 2003 season in Arizona, it wasn't pretty. They lost 13-0, and a completely deflated Bill Parcells had some serious words for owner Jerry Jones.
Yeah, I was offering him some business advice. That's right. That's what I did. I suggested that he sell the franchise while it was still marquee.
We're ready to go bang heads with somebody else rather than banging heads with each other here, and we're looking forward to it.
Over the course of the last 4 years, anytime
this, which of course we're going to the minute he says it, Tony Romo, the #2 quarterback tomorrow against the Cardinals. Widely believed Romo has the edge over Drew Henson to back up Drew Bledsoe this year.
I'm going to holler up there for a suggestion, and I would welcome anything anybody wanted to volunteer. I never saw it before in football. I mean, hey, the whole game operation, the whole sideline, is just chaos the other night. Just chaos.
The only thing longer than a 3rd and 50, the Cowboys' flight back to California as they look for answers. We go camping with the Cowboys. After taking a look at the tape, Bill Parcells talking about the Cowboys' first preseason game today. A lot of fans are worried about the Cowboys' first-team offense. They didn't do a very good job of moving the ball, not to mention the fact they didn't score. The main reason, a very simple game plan. Today, Parcells wanted to explain why he had that game plan, but figured nobody'd really understand it.
It'd be hard for me to really explain to you what I was trying to do with the offense because it didn't look like I was trying to do anything.
During the last 3 preseasons, the Cowboys' offense has struggled to score. Parcells would like to see more points, but that's not a top priority right now.
On the degree of importance, I don't know where I would put it. I mean, I certainly would like to score a couple touchdowns, but I mean, I'm not in a life or death situation right now.
We've got to be consistent in our execution. We can't have the penalties and the negative plays. We just need, if we go out and execute better and do our job a little bit better, the points will come.
A good thing Parcells isn't worried. Cowboys play Seattle next Monday live right here on KSAT 12, kickoff 7 o'clock. There has been communication.
Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman announce a sponsor for their NASCAR team. Texas Instruments will be their sponsor. The team hopes to have a car and a driver in place for the Daytona 500 in February. Aikman owns a car dealership there in Dallas in addition to being a broadcaster, and Roger has a real estate firm, and they're going to NASCAR.
Staying busy.
Yeah, they want
area, and the guy you might is Chris Canty. He's no Leon Ladd, and he's not the 7th-round pick from Florida State. In fact, he's a 4th-round pick from a big school, an ACC school known as the University of Virginia. Still, he's been a pleasant surprise, perhaps the best hit in a draft where defense was the emphasis, a draft where the first 2 players taken were defensive linemen, a player where both those players were taken in the 1st round.
What I'm seeing from Canty has kind of offset what I'm not seeing from Spears, because the expectations for Canty were, we were just wishing, and now it looks like, all, knock on wood, that we're going to have a pretty good player there, and that's just a big plus. And I think it, we did take a chance, and I don't know whether it was a gamble, but it was a chance, and it wasn't a 90-10 chance. It was, kind of a 50-50 chance, and I think we were fortunate that it turned out, or it looks like it could turn out.
A reminder,
things weren't bad enough for the Cowboys. Their quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, is playing in some pain. Bledsoe has been trying to move around on a sore foot. He had an MRI done today. The good news, there is no significant damage. He'll keep playing. So you have a quarterback that's having trouble moving around, an offensive line having trouble blocking. Talk about your bad combination. The line is suffering from injuries. Guard Marco Rivera spending his time on the bike. Right tackle Jacob Rogers keeps getting banged up. Tough spot for the head coach.
Obviously, the thing that makes you uncomfortable is when you're unable to rely on a player for whatever reason. When you don't know what you can count on, then it's always a problem. In addition to the right tackle, we have some other things that are also, I would say, almost as pressing, if not as pressing.
On the bright side, Parcells impressed with rookie lineman Rob Petty, the 350-pounder out of Pittsburgh. Today, Adam Pac-Man Jones in Tennessee agreed on.
Today, nothing showed up, but he says it started hurting sometime yesterday. Now, word tonight, the Cowboys, the team, calling it a pulled muscle on the bottom of his foot, but he's expected to be all right.
Parcells is unhappy.
During training camp, the players are always trying to impress the head coach, like DeMarcus Ware getting the big tuna his water. But that can be a double-edged sword. Bill Parcells calling defensive lineman Thomas Johnson Pepper Johnson. He reminds him of one of his former players, the original Pepper Johnson, who's been helping out at camp this year. So sometimes it's good for Thomas to be compared to an old player, and sometimes it's not so good.
He just gave it to me before he saw what I can do, so I'm trying to live up to it right now. When I made the plays, it's like, yes, So I just jumped up. I didn't even know how to celebrate. I just jumped up. So when he get on you, that's kind of good. When he don't say something to you, that's when you got a problem.
And there's always a concern for players at camp, injuries and just plain old fatigue. But what about the head coach? From just listening to him, camp is starting to take its toll on Bill Parcells. His daily press conferences sounding more and more discombobulated.
Here is really what I'm trying to say to you. we are at the tail end of our installation. We're all in the same boat right now, installation-wise. Being at the end of the installation is kind of a relief, okay? That's where we are. We're at the tail end of our installation.
So he's at the tail end of installing most of his offense. Got it. There is some bad news today. Offensive lineman Jacob Rogers might need surgery on his sprained right knee he picked up in the game against the Cardinals.
That's right.
The big tuna with a lesson on a good stiff arm and a not so subtle message to the media as we go camping with the Cowboys. A good news, bad news day for the Cowboys at camp. Start with the good. Marcus Spears on the field today is continuing his rehab after injuring his knee the first week of camp. Offensive lineman Marco Rivera also continuing his rehab of a strained groin. Now the bad. Tackle Jacob Rogers is out for the season. He was injured Saturday in the preseason game. He'll have surgery on a ligament and cartilage in his right knee next Friday.
We need a lot of work. You know, we got the makings to be a good offensive line, but it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, you just don't show up and play, you know, and it starts with practice. You know, you have to build the chemistry. You got to trust each other. And, you know, it's difficult, you know, so I'm missing a lot of practice time. And, you know, it's hard trying to build on that chemistry and continuity when I'm not in there.
Yeah, back to Rodgers. Owner Jerry Jones was disgusted when he found out about the surgery. The Cowboys didn't think the injury was that bad. Rodgers decided on his own to have the operation. For their preseason game, at least most of them are. There is a flying MASH unit headed to Dallas. Nose tackle Jason Ferguson, injured right ankle. Offensive lineman Marco Rivera, strained hamstring. Rookie defensive end Marcus Spears, knee and ankle. Fullback Darian Barnes, tight end Sean Ryan. You get the idea. There will be a change of quarterback playing order Monday night. Bill Parcells announced that Drew Henson will be the second to play. After Henson, Tony Romo will go third. By the way, the Cowboys have caught a break when they open the season in San Diego. They will not have to see Antonio Gates, the best tight end of the game. He caught 13 TD passes.
Brilliant fourth quarter comeback.